Hey guys, how's it going? Today I want to show you guys a phone that I've had for a few years now, but I haven't really done an in-depth review of it. This is the Nokia Lumia 1020, originally released in 2013, and this is a pretty unique phone. First of all, it doesn't run Android, it runs Windows Phone 8, which was the Microsoft operating system of the time. You gotta remember that Nokia was partnered with Microsoft at the time. So it used Windows Phone, which a lot of people think is the reason why Nokia kind of hastened their demise, is that they should have switched to Android, but they partnered with Microsoft, and that's what caused them to go out of relevancy quite quickly, because the problem with Windows Phone is not many people were making apps for it. So yeah, a bit about the specs for this. This is a 720p display here, 1280 by 720, and actually 768 because not exactly HD, but around there. 4.5 inch display, so you gotta remember 4.5 inches seems small by today's standards, but it was actually quite big by 2013 standards. And runs a Qualcomm Snapdragon S4 Plus, which was a fairly good processor for the time, and 32 gigs of internal storage, 2 gigs of RAM. I think can also be upgraded to 64. There was another model that was 64 and 2 gigs. But yeah, the main feature of this phone is actually the camera. So if you remember back, Nokia actually used to have really good cameras on their phones, and they were actually the first kind of phone maker to really care about the cameras. So you guys remember the Nokia N95, which I did in another video? The N95 was actually the first model to really come out with a really good camera, like the Carl Zeiss lens, right? And after that, this was way before iPhones and Android phones came out, but kind of Nokia was the first maker to really care about the cameras in their phones. Unfortunately, what happened to Nokia, it's kind of sad. Now you don't see people really carrying Nokias these days, but they were kind of the original. They were the industry leader, right? They were the dominant phone maker, and they also had the best camera phones for the time. The Nokia Lumia 1020 actually did have the best camera of the time. So you're not going to believe this, but this actually came sold with a camera grip. So that's what I have it on right now. So you can actually take this phone out of the grip, right? And this is the original phone right here, right? It's yellow, bright yellow. I know it stands out. But this lens here, this camera on the back is pretty amazing. It's a 41 megapixel camera. I know that seems crazy, but this is what they had back then. Back in 2013, Nokia was really ahead of their time with this phone. This had by far the best camera of the time, right? So it was competing with like the iPhone 5S back then, and this 41 megapixel camera beat pretty much all the other Android phones. Although the 5S had a really good camera, I don't think it had a camera quite as good as this one. 41 megapixel f2.2, 26 millimeter wide angle. Carl Zeiss optics, xenon flash, and it can record full HD, right? 4-time lossless digital zoom on this. So yeah, this had a really good camera for the time. You gotta remember this was for 2013, right? The fact that you had a 41 megapixel camera in 2013 with the Zeiss optics is pretty impressive. And they sold a camera grip with it, so this is what I used it with. So they emphasize the camera a lot, right? So you can see that the camera grip even comes with a tripod mount, right? That's how serious they were about this device, right? Even came with a tripod mount. You can mount it, take pictures using it, and looks kind of like a point and shoot camera from the back. And then it had a dedicated kind of shutter button right here. So yeah, dedicated shutter button, and this is a power button, volume rocker right here. Headphone jack, which was really standard back in 2013, SIM card tray, and charges with micro USB, because that was what was common back then, and a battery light indicator as well. So yeah, you would hold the phone like this, right, like this, to take a picture. So really you hold it like a camera, like a point and shoot camera, and then you would take a picture, right? So this is a really special device back then, and still think it's kind of unique now. So anyways guys, if you want to see Windows Phone, alright, this is Windows Phone 8, and I think I still have some pictures that I took from back then, but it's been a while since I used Windows Phone, but this is, yeah, it's not even Windows 10, that's the last Windows version that I used for a phone. I think that was the HP Elite X3, that one had Windows 10 on it. That was actually probably the best Windows phone, also the last one as well. So yeah, the HP Elite X3 was the last one I used. That was way back in 2016. So yeah, it's been a while since I used a Windows phone device. This one came out, way back 7 years ago. Let's see, I did take some photos using this apparently. So, okay, I think this is when I did the review. This device was this the Lumia 650? I think I might have had the 650 at one time. So, okay, I had the 1020 and I had the Lumia 650 at one time. Anyways, Windows Phone, pretty interesting. I'm not going to do a review on the Windows Phone operating system because I think I did a video on this already. I actually did a video on all the different Windows Mobile operating systems already, all the way from the Pocket PCs to Windows Phone, everything in between. So yeah, it is a pretty interesting operating system. I wouldn't say it's bad. It's not bad, it's just it wasn't very well supported. Right, it just didn't have any apps for it. And that's why Microsoft, with their new devices like the Surface Duo, they're going to Android. They can't use Windows Phone because just no one's gonna develop apps for it. It's kind of a chicken and egg problem. If you don't develop apps, then no one's gonna use your phone. And if no one uses your phone, people aren't gonna develop apps for it. So it's kind of a catch-22 there. That basically that's the reason why Android and iOS are pretty much the only viable phone mobile OSs on the market. I think this is Cortana, right? Yeah, they had Cortana. I'm not connected to the internet, but that's fine. So yeah, this phone, Windows 8, Windows Phone 8, pretty outdated, but I want to say it's still a fluid operating system, right? This is from 2013 and it's this fluid. Like, it's definitely more fluid than, what was Android running at the time? Android 4, I think? Jelly Bean or something like that. I think this is way more fluid than Android 4 from the time. So Windows Phone is actually a pretty fluid operating system. Anyways, let's get to the meat of this phone, which is the camera. So press the shutter button and yep, it's going to load up the cameras. Again, the 41 megapixel Carl Zeiss lens and optics on this. This camera was probably the best camera of the time by not a small margin. It was actually a really good camera. So probably even by today's standards, it might pass. So auto, you can change a lot of settings here. Auto, this is like white balance, ISO. So you can actually fiddle with a lot of these settings here. So this is definitely more settings you would get from other phones at the time. So you can do more manual stuff. Let's turn off, make it everything auto. Of course, you can adjust it manually if you wanted. I think kind of reminds me of the fact that I just reviewed the Sony Xperia 1 Mark II, and it had a lot of these extra settings and stuff like that. Of course, that has a much more sophisticated camera. So now the interesting thing is that Sony's now partnered with Zeiss, right? It used to be Nokia that's partnered with Zeiss, now it's Sony, because Sony also makes Zeiss lenses, right? Just Sony branded Zeiss lenses. But this, okay, this is the selfie camera right here. Selfie camera is actually nothing too special. I think it's just a 1.2 megapixel, which was pretty standard for the time. It is the back camera I'm more interested in. So yeah, you could do, this is a video recording, which you can record at 30 FPS. I think this looks smoother than 30. It looks almost like 60 FPS though, interestingly enough. You can do burst. Smart sequence is what they call it. Camera. Okay. Let's just see what other settings that we have. Oh, that's just our gallery. Okay. So, okay, interesting. So lens and front facing, timer, bracketing, settings, tutorial, okay. What is lenses anyways? Apparently you can swap lenses on this phone camera. That's a pretty unique thing. I think the only other phone maker that would kind of be like that would be, okay, at the time, the Lumia 1020 had the best camera on a phone, and then I think the Panasonic came out. The Panasonic Lumix phone came out, the CM1, and then the Motorola with the Moto mods, right? The Motorola G series with the mods and stuff. I think they came out with a Hasselblad camera mod that you had to attach onto your phone, and that was a pretty good camera. And then now you got the Sony Xperia 1 Mark II, all these branded fancy cameras on the phones. And even despite all that, I still think the iPhone and the Pixel still had the best cameras, even though they had all these other branded camera lenses and stuff. But anyways, okay, so I have a watch box here. I want to take a picture of, actually just open it up. This is my Bulova in the box. Alright, so we're going to take a picture of this Bulova right here. Set everything to auto. So this takes photos very slowly. Takes photos slowly, but they're going to be better quality than other photos of the time. Better than the 5S of the time, of course. So let's see what I took. Alright. So the ones with flash weren't in focus. That's not good. The ones in flash were not in focus. And then, okay, let's look at the ones I took without flash, which are more in focus. Okay. I think these pictures, obviously not as good as the phone cameras today, but still better than other cameras of the time, right? I think if you took a picture using an iPhone 5S and compared it to this, I think this would still be better. So yeah, that's what the Lumia 1020 was known for. When this phone came out, it would just blew everyone's minds with the 41 megapixel, because it doesn't actually take the full 41 megapixel. It kind of just, it takes the full 41 megapixels, but it kind of just crops it, right? And that gives a much better image than just taking a much smaller picture. So I think that's how Nokia looked at it. It takes the full resolution and then it just kind of crops it out, because people can't store 41 megapixel files on their phone, especially back then. But you know, it's still, you still get better picture quality if you start out with a higher resolution, just crop it, than if you just, you know, have a smaller resolution, right? So yeah, they're not really bad for the time. I mean, this is, you gotta remember, this phone's from 2013, right? So to get these kind of details out of a phone from 2013 is pretty good, actually. So anyways, maybe it's the lighting. I feel like maybe it doesn't like artificial lighting. Maybe this would be better in natural lighting, huh? But it's not daytime right now, so I can't really show you guys that. Interesting. What if I actually took this out? Could be because it's dark. So let me take this out. Do another picture here. I think the macro shots on this phone aren't particularly good or easy to do. So I gotta move back a little bit. Okay. So now, got a little bit more light there. Let's see how we did. Okay, that's better, I think. Yeah. So, yeah, I think definitely we improved. So, I mean, you can definitely see the lines on my palm here. That was all captured. So, yeah, I think what this phone does is it captures the full 41 megapixels and it crops a piece of it out. So that way you get a better image quality than just using a smaller resolution camera sensor. So this results in pictures that are probably better quality than any other phone camera of the time. And the Lumia 1020, I think, competed for quite a few years after that, even up to phones from 2016. I think the camera could still compete. So this camera was quite good for quite some time. Yeah, so I got to give props to Nokia for this. This phone, very, very interesting phone with a focus on the camera, and this camera probably as good as phone cameras even 3 years later after this came out. So still competed with, say, the iPhone SE, right? So that's pretty impressive. So yeah, this is a 41 megapixel camera, Carl Zeiss optics, Nokia PureView technology. So Xenon flash, everything. So yeah, this camera was pretty high end back then. So for a smartphone, right? So yeah, the fact that this phone came out 2013, yeah, it was definitely ahead of its time, I think. So anyways, I just wanted to give a demonstration of the Nokia Lumia 1020. It's a very, very special, unique phone from Nokia. So anyways, guys, that's it. Thanks for watching. Very interesting phone. Pretty much a collector's piece at this point, right? Since they don't make any Windows phones anymore. Anyways, as always, leave me feedback in the comments below, and thanks for watching.